So hello everyone. We'll be doing reviewing PR number 3886. So PR is about this new RPC set transaction fee rate. So we will have some couple of thoughts about it. We'll look into the code changes and uh, we'll then have some questions to wrap up the session. So what this part does is it is replacing a current RPC, which is the transaction, this one. So what this set transaction fee RPC does is it just sets a minimum transaction fee rate for the transactions to go in currently Bitcoin per kilo virtual bytes. So this is the current uh, rate of like the current denomination of how we get the transaction fee rate in. But now what this PR does is this PR like hides or like deprecates this RPC transaction fee and replaces it with the new RPC call with which is set transaction fee rate. So there are a couple of reasons behind choosing. So what happens is uh, the current mempool space or like if you see the current explorers, any explorer that you will use, you will see that all the transaction fee rates are mentioned in sats per virtual bytes and not Bitcoin per kilo virtual bytes. So like this is uh, like how you will see the rate like the fee rates are mentioned in sats per virtual bytes. So this is the standard now currently for explorers, and it is also the standard for the general public. So this Bitcoin per kilo virtual bytes is something only the developers used, but it is like logical to go to sats per virtual byte since it is more connected to the general public, and like uh, it is easier to understand or like easier to implement if we do it in what the standard currently is. So this is one of the main reasons behind this. The other reasons behind that, you can say that it might be a reason. So as you know, the current bull run is going on and the Bitcoin price is going higher and higher. Like it is projected to go even higher. So this poses a problem for this Bitcoin per kilo virtual bytes like denomination. So what happens is this denomination, so the new fee rates with this old denomination will go into like 0.001 and even lesser. So it goes into decimals, which is like not like it is a pain point for developers to use decimals because of because of the issues with precision and all. Whereas when we use sats per virtual bytes, we get really good whole numbers to calculate our like fee rates in, so which are also easier to handle in math with lesser probability of error. So this is another reason which you can say that this PR is being introduced. So yeah, so this is the main reason behind it. So we'll now go into the implementation details. Yeah, so there were two ways of how we can handle this situation. One would be that not not deprecating this set transaction fee and just replacing the implementation with this new standard or with the new denomination we would like. But the problem is that this can create a lot of issues with the softwares, like with the node implementations the explorers are using, because this RPC change might not be backward compatible, because we are changing the implementation of this RPC entirely with the new denomination or with the new standard. So this will create some backward compatibility issues and will render some of the versions of the Bitcoin node useless. So this way of like going through with the PR was rejected. The other way was this PR where we are just introducing a new RPC to handle that, and then we are like deprecating the old RPC, which can be also be accessed if we still want to use it, but we'll have to enable the deprecated RPC method to be able to access it. It won't be able, like if you run Bitcoin CLI help, you won't be able to like see the new, see the old RPC, but you will be able to see the new one. So we'll just look into the uh, code changes. So we are having a new RPC with set transaction fee rate with zero default and amount variable. Yeah, so we are setting the set transaction fee RPC as deprecated, and uh, this is the only change that we have in this. Okay, so now what happens is if we try to use this RPC set transaction fee with the option uh, use like deprecated RPC, what we will see is this the wallet like implementation will throw us an error that this RPC has been deprecated, uh, and we should use the new RPC or just restart the Bitcoin D entirely with the deprecated RPC method. And like this will be removed in this version of Bitcoin Core. So this is like just a error message. Now this is the current like this is the implementation of this set transaction period that we'll have. So we are just setting the transaction fee rate in currency atom. So if we'll just see currency atom, you'll see it is just so it is the uh, smallest form, like the smallest minimum amount of Bitcoin that we can use, and this just sets the fee rate in sats per virtual bytes for this wallet, and we will just put in some amount and we'll just set that amount as a sats per virtual byte period, and it should return true if we were able to successfully change the change it, and no if false. So what this help example CLI does is it uh, just helps us to implement the CLI commands uh, that we would have done. Like it will use it in the code directly without us having to write the entire CLI command ourselves. So if we just look into help example CLI and just go into the implementation of it, it just will go, yeah. So what's happening is we just have the method name and the arguments, and it will just write the entire Bitcoin CLI command uh, for us, and it will be implemented, like it will be, yeah, it will run itself, and we have this uh, function with a univalue return. So univalue is something specific to Bitcoin core. So we have uh, a lot of uh, like types of uh, types of values. So we have bools, we have strings, we have uh, integers and all. So we just have uh, reference implementation to just get the value that we would have. So yeah, it has float, bool, integer, and string. It returns whatever we are using according to the needs of like according to what was passed in through, or what was whatever the need we had for what type of value we would have required. Yeah, so now we have some test amounts from our request parameters. Request would be something we would be getting from the front end, and we then use we then convert the amount to BTC per kilo virtual byte. So we are still using this converted amount to like uh, convert this into the old convention, just for like having some implementation, just for the easiness of developers to have to not convert the entire thing into the new calculation standards, since we would have had the calculation in the entire code base according to this Bitcoin per kilo virtual byte convention. We are like choosing to just use the converted amount uh, to like implement the checks or the implementation that we would have done to make this RPC work. So this n amount is just uh, the amount converted using the univalue, and we have a shared pointer to the wallet. So we get a wallet for JSON RPC requests, and if we don't have a wallet, we return univalue null, that we have uh, nothing. Then in line 489, we just lock the mutex so that the threads don't compete for the resources of like accessing the wallet. So we are setting the fee rate. The new fee rate we are setting it would be uh, in sats per virtual bytes, and we are creating a max transaction fee rate with default max transaction fee rate to be set as 1000. So if the fee rate is 0, we are just automatically selecting it. If we have the transaction fee rate less than the chain's minimum relay fee, so we would so if we don't pay the minimum fee of playing, our transaction will not be relayed to to our peers. So yeah, so if it is less than that, we'll have an error of transaction fee cannot be less than this minimum relay transaction fee, which is for relaying the transaction to other nodes. And it should also, if it is also if it is less than the wallet's minimum fee, we'll also have an error that the transaction fee cannot be less than the minimum wallet fee. So this will also be thrown as an error. Also, we would have a last check So that transaction fee, if transaction fee rate is greater than the max transaction fee rate, it is like going, it has gone out of the bounds, and it cannot be more than the maximum fee rate the wallet can have. So the wallet will have a range from of fee rates that we can set. So we would have a minimum and a maximum. So we would have to set the fee rate in between always. Otherwise, the the RPC will throw an error. So if it checks all the bounds, we will set the the pay transaction fee to the transaction fee rate that we had chosen previously. So here it is, and will return true that our RPC request has gone through successfully. Yeah, so this is about the main implementation in the RPC helpman, and we also add this in the wallet.cpp. So in wallet.cpp wallet implementation, we add this RPC. Now what we are doing is currently the set transaction fee RPC is added in the wallet. Now it is kept hidden. So the interface, or like how it would look like, is when we use Bitcoin CLI help, we will not see. So previously it would have been that in the wallet section, so the Bitcoin CLI has a lot of section, wallet RPCs and other RPCs and all. So previously that transaction fee would come under the wallet section, but now we are like hiding it from the general help. So we just add hidden, and it will now not be shown under the wallet RPCs, and it will be hidden from the general help. And we'll just add this new set transaction fee rate under the wallet RPCs. So uh, it will now be shown in the general app where the set transaction fee was being shown previously. Yeah, so now we have a functional implementation of this RPC. So we will check if this RPC is working correctly. We just this is just basic setup. We set the set transaction fee rate, deprecated RPC fee rate to so that we can use this set transaction fee RPC that is now deprecated. Now we'll just node help. We'll just utilize node help. So what will happen in node help is that when we generally when we use node help without a parameter, it will just take into account all the general RPCs that will be shown to the general user, and if the RPC is not included in them, then it will assert that the RPC is not in node.help. Otherwise, it will assert that it is in node.help. So since we have now removed set transaction fee from the general help, uh, set transaction fee will not be like will be like thrown in as not in node.help, and set transaction fee rate will be shown as it is in node.help. Now what will happen is when we use node.help with the specific RPC, it includes the general RPC as well as the hidden RPCs. So it will check in all of them. So if it founds that RPC uh, in node.help, uh, we will like it will assert that it is in node.help, and if it is not, then it will assert that the RPC, that specific RPC that we input in the parameters, it will be like it is in the node.help. So what we have currently is we have this entire message which is thrown when we don't have that specific RPC inside inside the entire RPC list, then this message will be thrown. So we are asserting that this message is not thrown when we are using set transaction fee rate, and also we are using this to assert that set transaction fee is in the list of RPC commands even if it is hidden. So this is the most like visible change, that it is not available in general help, but if you would like to access it directly from the list of the RPCs, you can, and it will be always there until it is removed in some specific version of Bitcoin code. So now it is just checks to see if the RPCs are working correctly. So we'll check that if uh, if the set transaction fee rate is like setting the fee rate correctly. So we just set the transaction fee rate to 0.001 uh, Bitcoin per kilo virtual bytes, and we assert that this is true, and we also assert that the paid transaction fee is equal to this fee rate that we set. So we can see above that the variable that we were updating was pay transaction fee. So this is exactly what that variable is. So first we are checking if the transaction went through with the true true assertion, and then we are checking in the like then we are checking directly in our like state if the pay transaction fee was updated, and indeed it was updated if the check is going through. So we can see that there are like 8 decimal places. That is because we are using Bitcoin here as a transaction fee rate. So the smallest denomination is sats, which is 10 raised to power 8 sats is equal to 1 Bitcoin. And that is why, just to uh, have this denomination in Bitcoin, and also have like if there is some changes in sats value, so something like 1.00001 Bitcoin, we have 8 decimal places here to count for that. Now we just add a debug statement to check if the set transaction fee rate is being uh, set the fee rate in. So I guess this is mistake. It should be sats per virtual byte, and we just set the transaction fee rate to 6 sats per virtual bytes, and this is like, and we check if this is going through, and we just now check that the set transaction fee limit cannot be surpassed. So this must be the maximum fee rate that we can choose, and we just check that it does not. If we try to choose like set transaction fee rate that is greater than this, we get an error. So yeah, we are choosing set transaction fee as 1 Bitcoin per kilo virtual bytes, which is greater than 0.1 Bitcoin per kilo virtual bytes. So we get an error. And also to check the minimum limit, which is of 0.0001 bytes per kilo virtual bytes, Bitcoin per kilo virtual bytes. Uh, sorry, that is 10,000 sats per virtual bytes, which cannot be surpassed. So we are still looking at the maximum fee rate, but in sats per virtual bytes. So we are choosing one greater than this denomination, and it will raise an error. Now we'll look into the minimum transaction period that we can have. So we choose just a little less than this amount, and we should uh, have an error that the transaction period that we are choosing is less than the minimum amount specified by the wallet. So this is in Bitcoin per kilo virtual bytes. Now we have the transaction fee minimum at 1 sat per virtual byte. So we'll choose 0.99, which is less than 1 sat per virtual byte, and using the set transaction fee rate, and we'll also again have an error because we are using amount less than uh, the specified lower limit. Yeah, so now we are testing that the set transaction fee rate so the set transaction fee is being when we are creating the transaction. So this expected fee rate is 0.001, which we will be also setting with node dot set transaction fee. So this is the fee rate in Bitcoin per kilo virtual bytes. So we are just creating a transaction. We are having a transaction ID with some specified fee and some specified size, virtual size. We are checking the fee rate with fee divided by virtual size. And what this does is quantize just uh, so if we have a number, so if we get a number that has like 3 decimal places, and we are quantizing with a number that has 8 decimal places, it will change the fee rate to a number with 8 decimal places just for better comparison. So there is no error when we are like comparing things. It is better to use better to quantize or like round up your numbers if they are float, or if they are the other type. So we have decimals in float. Uh, we check if the expected fee rate is equal to the one that we set before. No, so sorry, we just quantize this expected fee rate to also with 8 decimal places, and we assert that they both are equal. We do the same thing again with sats per virtual bytes. We set an expected fee rate. We get a transaction ID. We check the fee of that transaction ID. We check the virtual size of the transaction ID. We check the fee rate. We again quantize it to 8 decimal places. We quantize the expected fee rate also to 8 decimal places. And we also debug that the set transaction fee is like deprecated. So at last we should have an assert statement. We should have a statement that we should not use set transaction fee rate where after the implementation of this set transaction fee. So first all this will go through and then it will output in set transaction fee uh, to like it will output the RPC error of the set transaction fee that we set previously in our RPC helpman to raise an error when we are using set transaction fee. And this is this us adding the test and all the other changes are just uh, changing this set transaction fee to deprecated. Yeah, so this is all the changes that are in the PR. So what we'll go through is we'll go through the questions. So the first question is what is the why do we need to change the fee rate from the initial Bitcoin per kilo virtual bytes to the new sats per virtual bytes, which I like covered in the session. But if anybody would like to add up to that, or like just have your views about why you would introduce this change into this PR.
I think because Sats per virtual bytes is the standard, it's every most wallets other than Core already I think use it, and even most mempool explorers use it. So it helps in synchronizing with the entire ecosystem. When everybody is using a certain metric, it makes more sense for you to use the same metric as well. And also with Bitcoin's price going up, it will become more and more difficult and complicated to denominate in Bitcoins instead of Sats.
Yeah, exactly. So this is like entirely the main reason behind this is what you said. Uh, Still, they are like uh, till the implementation is like hard to change. That is why in the implementation itself, when you'll see, we itself convert the the set to virtual bytes in Bitcoin per kilo virtual bytes just for the sake of having the same implementation, but for the general user to be able to be more connected to this core, like the core implement, like the code or like general interface when they are interacting with their Bitcoin node, we are just adding the implementation to so that the denomination which is being seen on the front end is sats per virtual bytes, not Bitcoin per kilo virtual bytes. Yeah, so the next difference is what is the difference when we are like interacting with the RPC directly and when we are using the general help.
So I think in
So
context of this PR, if we directly try and invoke the deprecated RPC, that is settxfee, we'll get an error saying that this RPC is deprecated. Whereas if we invoke the general help RPC command, then that RPC in itself will be hidden, and only the latest implementation or the latest RPC, that is settxfeerate, will be visible.
yeah, exactly. So we might be able to use it, but it'll at last throw in a debug error, not the runtime error. It will throw in debug error that this RPC has been deprecated and you should like maybe use the other RPC
Right.
or maybe run it with the deprecated RPC itself. Mm, like, so these are the entire questions that we have for the session. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining this session. And yeah, stack sets.
Yeah. And they're getting expenses, stack as many as you can.
Yeah, try
Right.
to get as many as you can by per group.
Thanks so much, Prabodh. And this was a very interesting PR as well. Something that even end users would be able to relate, even if somebody is not a Bitcoin code developer and they just use uh, uh, like any wallet, or they use Bitcoin Core as an end user. It's very relevant to them. So yeah, very nice PR that you chose.
Yeah, really easy PR to uh, just review, but has a lot of impact for the general
Right.
public, especially in this current scenario.